Hi, I'm Rigger. This is Your Right, and today we're just having fun. Before that though, be sure to like the video if you like it, share anything else you would like it, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe if you want to see more. But yeah, the point of this video is what can you do with the staff? Or more importantly, what can Salem do with the staff? Because you can have whatever you like. I say you can have whatever you like. Alright, I'll stop that. But yeah, before we go on, let's not get too judgy here. This isn't me ripping into the show for bad writing, it's not in bad faith, and I'm not saying any of these things are going to happen either. It's just a fun idea. All of this can be explained away with further conditions or simply changing the circumstances in the show. What this is instead is, when presented with the staff and everything we've seen so far, I said a couple of times you could just win with it. But sitting down I thought, okay, so how would you do that? There's endless options, as is the nature of creativity. So because of that, I came up with a list of not specific ways to do it, but 5 versions of what you could do and some examples for each of those. Keeping in mind the powers of the staff and its behaviour, etc., and what we've seen so far. Meaning, these aren't necessarily good ideas or bad ideas, these are just what came to mind. And they're somewhat ranked in terms of how fitting they are for the show. Like, the lower end ones might be something you could actually see in the show and you could play with and there could be narrative to them. The top end, it's not really, it's just cheating, and wouldn't be a good story most likely. But I've been very busy lately, I've had quite a few hard weeks here, so this is just a quick video of ideas. Since creativity is endless, absolutely feel free to throw your own versions in the comments or how you would use these ideas or what other things you could do along these lines, or new ones if you have them. Love to read them. This is just a little fun thing to tide us over. So let's get going. Number 5. Exploit the relic mechanics. So, this one isn't anything to do with the staff's specific power really, but instead the mechanics of the relics in general. What do I mean? Well, all the relics so far have one of the most OP powers of all built in. Time stoppage. What are the rules here? Why can't you, say, freeze time, walk up to someone outside of that bubble and take whatever they're holding? Or slit their throat? So, obviously the answer is the spirits won't let you, that's what you would assume, but we haven't actually seen that. We've seen that Jin knows Ruby didn't have something to ask, and allowed her this one opportunity to freeze time for herself, but said never again. But also, that fits Jin's powers, that she would know that. She knows people's intentions, she knows everything. And she has limited charges, so turning her on, wait, that's phrased wrong, using her relic has consequences, so you can't just summon her up for nothing, she has a specific amount. The staff has neither of these qualifiers. It doesn't fit Ambrosius's powers to know everything, it's not his realm of power. Which obviously may be a front, all the relics have the same origins, but at least what we've seen personality-wise, Ambrosius doesn't let on that he knows what you're thinking. But even if he did, and the rule was you can't summon him without asking for something, he has unlimited charges, so you can exploit that forever. Yes, I'd like a knife. And another, and this, and that, it doesn't matter. But as far as violence goes, this also fits. Ambrosius, it is true, cannot destroy things, but he can cause things to be destroyed. He can't make something that actively destroys something else to do it in order to be made, but he can take actions that actively result in destruction. Case in point, dropping of Atlas onto Mantle. He's able to take that action, even though it will immediately result in thousands of deaths. Or adding flames that will kill Watts. He can do these things. He just can't destroy things while making something. So these are totally fine. So holding the staff, right? Even if you can't kill whilst time is frozen, you could still be untouchable. You could dodge every single attack. Every time someone goes to swing at you, stop time, move out of the way, maybe circle behind your opponent, ask for a new weapon or something else, doesn't matter. Ambrosius disappears, you stab them from behind, or you simply can't be hit, you win. You cannot be touched. You could be godlike in any combat way, as well as just freezing everyone and walking through the battle lines. Do whatever you want. Salem is of course immortal anyway, so speaking specifically to her, it's not as useful, but anyone could do this. But also Salem could, again, yeah, just walk through all the resistance without bothering for them. Just walk through the army, grab Oz who can't run away, grab a Maiden who can't run away, do anything. There is no physical problem you cannot fix like this. As for violence while time is stopped, look, it's hard to say. You could say that the genie would stop them or not allow it, but the only time we've seen anything close to that, Jin made no move to stop the girls holding swords on Crow. Whether she knew they wouldn't attack, who knows. And also, Oz dived at Ruby, which she didn't intervene and stop directly, she stopped it by starting the visions and separating everyone. Would that have still applied if a question hadn't been asked at that time? Who knows? So we don't have a definitive answer yet. So this time stop mechanic with endless charges in the staff's case could mean you could solve basically anything. But with Salem's combat prowess we don't need it anyway, so we'll move on. Number 4. The Maiden's Hunt is now child's play. So this involves Cinder more than Salem, but it's Salem's goal because Salem wants the relics. The easy way to get those keys is to get Cinder those powers, right? Keep Cinder happy, helps with the plan, etc, etc. Oh, and before we continue, can we stop this narrative, by the way, that if Cinder gets all the Maiden powers, she'll be a match for Salem? That's just not true. Oz was a match for Salem with all those powers and his leftover own, but even then, being a match means he was only an equal, but he still couldn't beat her because she just comes back, so yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Without anything big happening to Salem, like God stepping in and taking away her immortality or something, it won't make a difference. Cinder can't shuffle off Salem. Maybe she thinks she can, I wouldn't put it past her to try it, but she would fail if she did. It can't work. But yeah, hunt down the Maidens. We have 3 Maiden powers on the loose. Let's get them really easy. My absolute favourite one, which isn't the easiest way to do it, but is very fun because it brings out the massive DBZ fan in me, is something you could actually do in the show and would be kind of fun, which is creating a Maiden radar. I actually really want them to do this. As far as how, that's easy. Use any radio-like equipment in the world as an example, but instead of pinging off objects, it pings off Maiden powers. Do we have an example of that for Ambrosius to use? Yep. Cinder. Make a handheld device, or wrist-mounted device or whatever, that using a map pings off everyone with this same power signature. That works. This means that BAM! Hand it over to Cinder and she can fly around the world to her heart's content and hunt down all the Maidens and murk them whenever she likes. No hiding from her, no getting away from her. Even those like Raven, who can run with her portals, can never truly get away, because Cinder can always follow her and also murder her friends until she runs out of portals to run to. And yes, it is likely she knows how that works, or can figure it out given how things went in Volume 5, or just murder her friends for fun, whichever Cinder likes. Also, if you hand Cinder the staff, as well as combine with this idea with the last one, she can just beat any of the Maidens immediately in a fight too. Use the radar to find them, once she arrives, pop the staff, use the time freeze mechanic, doesn't matter that the radar disappears at that point, kill the Maiden, remake the radar, move on to the next one. Super easy. But let's say you didn't want to give her the staff, you don't want those sort of things to happen, well, you can do it another way, which is screw the radar, screw chasing them. Can you just portal to the Maidens, please? They can do that easily as well. Make a portal to the other Maiden holders. Cinder is the example of a Maiden holder and what to look for. You don't have to be specific where you're portaling to, since they said generally Vacuo, and that was good enough. They didn't know exactly where they were in Vacuo. So, saying a place name, or giving an example of a place, is close enough to count. You don't need exact coordinates. And in fact, it kinda screwed them that they didn't have exact coordinates, because they were somewhat lost in the storm. So instead of saying a location, like portal me to Vacuo, portal me to wherever, say portal me to the nearest holder with these powers, matching mine, being Cinder, or matching Cinder's if it was Salem asking. Then simply arrive, aim at like 3 in the morning or something, and just murder them in their sleep if you get lucky. If not, just they're not going to be expecting you either way. It might not work every time, but you'd have a good batting average. And you'd get a couple more powers, which makes all the next fights easier. There's of course more variables than this, there are things that can go wrong and things you could do in a story, but still, it would make things so much easier. There are way more things to consider, but as for collecting vault keys, you could probably rack up all the powers in like a week, take the best advantage away from the good guys to defend against you, and at the same time get all the keys to just walk into whatever vault you like. It's true the beacon one might still be an issue, but we'll get to that soon. Number 3. Ransom the World. So, Ransom is a sucky position to be in, and we just did a whole season of it with Volume 8. It wouldn't be the best plot point to repeat, and it wouldn't be the most fun, but it is effective. With the power of the staff, you could hold the whole world hostage for those powers in a much more efficient way. What do I mean? Well, it all comes down to what people are willing to sacrifice, and as we saw with Mantle and Atlas, leveraging people to breaking point isn't too difficult, and they only fell just short. So, go up to Vacuo, just like in Volume 8, and say, give me the Maidens and the relics, or you all die. Blah blah blah, seen it before, but no, now they mean it. Excuse me, Ambrosius, please make a giant floating rock the size of 10 Vacuos floating above the city, please. Here's all reference and footage of Atlas as reference, which you've made before as well, and yeah, just use it to create a giant landmass. How big? Whatever works, honestly. The size of a country if need be, let's say 20 times the size of Atlas. And you have a day or I drop it. And then they fire back and say, well, you won't drop it, you want the Maiden powers. And she says, well, I'll drop it and just wait for the Maiden powers to move on to the next person and then move on to the next city. There's literally 4 kingdoms, I can just do this very quickly. Now, there are flaws in this plan. We don't know what happens if the vaults can be destroyed. Like, if you dropped a rock on the vaults, would the gate be destroyed and then you never get to the relics? Maybe? We don't know. And we also have the beacon problem still that she can't find it. But as far as a threat, it would be pretty effective. If need be, and she believes these issues would be negligible, you can just do it. Have Ambrosius create the same rock without the hovering abilities, which upon the asking of Ambrosius ending immediately starts to fall, and yeah, it detonates a continent, makes tidal waves, kills millions, and move on. The next place, wherever that may be, whatever the next kingdom is, will definitely know about this due to everything that would have gone haywire even without communications, and circle back to the vault later when you get those powers. The ability to kill millions of people in your hands with a very public display of giant floating rocks in the sky means that you basically can't lose. If need be, you just detonate pretty much all the populations of the Earth until the powers are whittled down to a few people and then kill them. It all works. Again, the only problem is maybe destroying the gates, but we'll move on to addressing that pretty soon. Again, the only other issue is, does this fit the rules? And it absolutely does. Ambrosius can absolutely do this. He can take direct actions that causes giant rocks to land on places, as was Atlas the example. And the fate of Watts, as him creating a fire immediately resulted in Watts burning to death. So all these actions can be taken. Ambrosius can take actions that immediately result in destruction, he just can't cause it himself. And just like creating Penny's body, he can create something out of nothing. All that matter did not exist, so creating a giant rock, very easy. Number 2, overwhelming force. This is similar to the last one without some of the issues. You don't risk detonating the gates. Basically, you do a version of being actually unstoppable. The first version is an endless army. Use any footage, documents, etc. you can of Atlas drones or anything else, and see how big of an automated army the staff can make. It can't make souls or bring people back to life, but it can probably get close to it with a version of automation. It should be fine. If you have reference for Penny's schematics still on hand, which you did have at one point, you could use those for robots. Nowadays, the references in general might be harder to find, but not impossible with Atlas being destroyed. That's fair, but there are other documents around the world for Atlas and its drones. You even have things like the footage from Mercury's phone, etc, etc. Plus, besides that, you could use the Grim as an example too. I'm not sure if Ambrosius could make something Grim-alike, but it's definitely worth a try for mindless drones that will do what you tell them, or perhaps have one single instruction or desire. Whichever route you go about it, see how many units that Ambrosius can make from you. What are the limits of his powers? Because the best thing about these forces is what separates them from Grim and Atlas bots, and it's that they're endless. How many can Ambrosius make? 100? That's not great. 1,000? Who knows? A million? I have no idea. Who has any idea? But the moment that those forces take a big hit, summon them back again. Immediately. It's literally endless. You will never run out of forces. You could throw them at Vacuo forever, and anywhere else that's left as well. It would just leave everyone defenseless. You don't have to raise an army and spend time making Grim. You just make as many as Ambrosius can make of this force, and just throw them at the problem again and again and again and again until it's gone. Likely, this drives the good guys to probably go for the sword, which is its own challenge aside. That's, you know, to be expected, that's fair. But still, in general, to destroy anyone, you have endless forces at your disposal. But wait, you say, that can't work. The robots won't work and you can't make Grim, you're hand-waving it. Okay, fine. You can't make lots of units in a force, so what are you going to do instead? You don't have to hand-wave how they get automated units or lots of things at once. Instead, let's do, I don't know, Cinder's idea was good. Fire. Set Vacuo on fire. Just all of it. Just all the residents burn. All the ground now in Vacuo is now fire. Yeah, the more powerful people will survive, like the Maidens who can fly, etc., but most people will start burning alive. Ambrosius can just create fire in Atlas to kill Watts, so just create fire in Vacuo to kill whoever else you like. Or better yet, you don't have to kill anybody. Just light as much ground as you can in Atlas on fire, leave it that way for, let's say, 10 seconds, turn it off, and then say, give us what you want, and we turn it back on again, and everyone burns to death again. See, it's pretty good, it's back to Ransom. But it's pretty direct, and it's hard to not be touching the ground at all for everyone at all times. And with that, with Vacuo, you could even get out a map and say, this is the exact area we need to light on fire. It's torturous, it's horrific, it's mean, and it's cheating. It's also unstoppable and will kill everyone you need to kill, and even the heroes that can live will then be easy pickings, and that's assuming the heroes are happy to live with you doing that to people, which they aren't. And the fire is only one version. Pick whatever else you like. What other force do you want to make? Do you want to create tons of water and drown everybody? Why not? Electricity? Go for it. Again, if it works with Watts, it's completely within the rules to do that. And even if you can't do all of Vacuo at once, that's fine. Just do it in sections. I'm going to light this city block on fire. Oh, it's on fire. Now do what we want or relight the next one on fire. You literally can't stop us. There's nothing you can do. You can't defend against it. You lose. And again, just start piling with everything else. When they send the forces to attack you, use the time freeze, make weapons, make whatever else. You can win this whole thing with just the staff. Even if you can only have one thing at a time, it doesn't matter. Just cycle through everything you need over and over again. But lastly, number 1. Just cheat. Just cheat and dodge everything. It's the easiest version. A portal to the relics. Yeah, let's say that Ambrosius can't open the doors for whatever reason. Doesn't matter, he doesn't need to. See, only the Maidens can open the doors, but that's only useful when the doors are the only way in. They are no longer the only way in. It is unlikely that that magic protects the entire vault space. In fact, we know it doesn't because Ambrosius opened up some of the vault space. So while the Maiden doors are the only ways from Remnant through to that space normally, if you can make your own doors, it no longer matters. It's basically like using a side door or a back door. So let's just assume for whatever reason Ambrosius can't get through those doors, just make a portal to the other relics. Use the existing relics you have, the lamp and the staff. Say, the other 2 things that are signatures with these, the other 2 relics, open a portal as close as you can to those. Because yeah, you don't have a specific place you can point to, you don't have a location on a map for where those are, but you can use the proximity of them being similar objects to the ones you have to say this is where we want to go. Because again, a simple vacuo was good enough to get in the close proximity. So you don't need the coordinations, just gotta jump the dimensional barrier, which wasn't an issue for the staff. In fact, it was the solution to the problem for the staff, so that's the easy bit. So just go get your relics, you have all 4 in an afternoon, and you win. I mean, when I say win, again, this is win in Salem standards. She gets what she wants. I'm not saying it would work out for her, but that's what she wants, she can do it in an afternoon. Beacon's hidden door wouldn't even matter at that point either, who cares? You can't find the portal on this side, it doesn't matter, you're jumping the queue, you're going to the other side, who needs the vault door? But even if that's too far, for whatever reason, even though it doesn't apply to the rules, you say you can't do that, okay, even if you do need the vault door, you can just go down the list, use all the other methods listed before together, get all the Maiden powers, and still do this pretty easy. Just like I said, make a Maiden locator, make a vault locator. Using the existing vaults you can easily go visit as an example, especially the one in Haven. Or if there's more of a trick to it, as Oz implied, hey, can you create a guidebook to how to get to the Beacon Vault, or a map? Use those real-world examples of maps and guidebooks as an example, and instead it's filled with the knowledge of what you want to find out. At no point does it say you need to know everything you ask Ambrosius for and how it all works, you just need to be able to explain it to him and for it to be possible. There's no reason you can't learn from what you make. Because yeah, it's cheap. That's dodging the rules, but that's what we've already done with Ambrosius before. Technically, you can ask Jin a question and she can answer anything that has already happened, any knowledge that exists in the world, she just can't tell the future. Ambrosius can create anything for you, it just has to be possible and you have to explain to him how it works. That doesn't mean you can't ask him to create something that explains to you something you need to know, because that's knowledge that exists in the world, and even though his power isn't accessing it directly to give you an answer, it can be to create something that in itself gives you the answer. Which is one of the reasons the staff, as it exists right now, is cheap and broken. But also so many other things. Every fight, create a giant 10-foot steel cube around every single one of the combatants I can see. Maybe the Maidens and Oz can escape from that, maybe. Everyone else suffocates and dies. Create giant dust bombs, like nukes. So long as you're the one that sets them off, and not him, it's fine. And Salem will always come back if you need that to happen that way. Create another vault key? I mean, I said that maybe only the Maidens can open the doors, but actually when you power scale it, that also doesn't make sense, because presumably those doors were made by Oz, since the Maidens, one way or the other, were made by Oz and they act as the keys. The relics were made by the gods, not Oz, so the gods definitely far outpower Oz, so saying they don't have the potential to match the ability to unlock those doors is a broad assumption, honestly. It would surely require testing, because it would all depend on how much power the gods gave the relics, since they did put limiters on them, like the amount of questions, etc. But they do come from a power source that is the greatest in the universe as far as we know, so they're definitely above Oz, and we assume that Oz is responsible for the vaults. Or even if the vaults were in place by the gods, the door system definitely was put in place by Oz. It's the only thing that makes sense. So, make a key. Here's an example of a key, here's an example of a Maiden. Make a key that matches the power of a Maiden, to be used on these doors and function the same way. There's no reason he can't do that technically that we have been told. I was just being nice about the assumptions with the other versions. How else can you cheat? Creating a virus would be interesting to see if that counts as being alive or having a soul, which you wouldn't think so, and release that into a city. Perhaps you could target certain things you need. Create portals under people is a great one, and everyone you want is teleported immediately wherever you like. So screw hunting maidens or Oz, they all just fall through portals in the ground and appear at the castle, or in this volcano. Whatever you'd like, pretty much whatever. Hey, cause you can have whatever you like. No, I won't do that again. But you get the point. We're at the end here. But yeah, with this list, you can see so many ways you can exploit this stuff that so far we haven't got a reason they can't do. This pretty much wraps it up. Again, this was just for fun. Don't take it too seriously. Don't attack me or anybody else. I've had a rough old time. I wanted to make a video for fun. I'm so sorry the video this week is late. Quite a bit late. Obviously, that's the reason. But yeah, please everyone be nice to each other. I do hope to see you next time. Please leave a like if you enjoyed as well and share it around. But until that next time, my name is Rigger. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.